An air and sea search is continuing for possible survivors of the Edmund Fitzgerald, a 729-foot ore carrier, which apparently broke apart and sunk last night on Lake Superior.
50 years ago today, during a fierce storm, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald freighter sank in the waters of Lake Superior near Whitefish Point in the Upper Peninsula. The 29 crew members on board did not survive. To this day, the exact cause of the ship going down remains a mystery. 5 decades later, families of the crew members who died are pausing to honor their loved ones. This is a live look this morning from a camera at the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum at Whitefish Point. Later this afternoon, the museum will hold an outdoor public remembrance service for the 50th Edmund Fitzgerald Memorial. And a Gratiot County man will be there for that ceremony. 50 years ago, Tony Hall was a seaman in the Coast Guard. He and his shipmates answered the rescue call that fateful night.
I'm going to do the best I can because, Matt, sometimes I walk in the kitchen and I can't remember why I walked in there. So this is 50 years ago.
November 10th, 1975, Tony Hall was stationed in Duluth, Minnesota in the Coast Guard on the buoy tender Wood Rush.
We were all scattered about, the ones that didn't have to work on the ship that night. And I was probably hanging out the bowling alley or someplace with some other guys.
He was 19 years old.
Over the PA systems and the TV, it was saying all members of the Wood Rush return to the ship like right away.
He and his crewmates quickly made it back to the dock to fuel up the ship, even though they didn't have all the details yet on the mission, and a third of their crew was missing.
The scuttlebutt was the ship was in trouble out in the lake and we had to go now.
More than 300 nautical miles away, the 729-foot-long SS Edmund Fitzgerald freighter disappeared during a storm and towering waves.
You know, most of the crew was maybe in their mid-20s, maybe. We were kids. We were scared.
But they had a job to do. The waters were too rough for other ships to respond that night, while another ship closer to the wreckage was out for maintenance. The Wood Rush could handle the storm barely.
These were 35-foot waves, and it was like a wine bottle cork in a washing machine.
It was a journey Tony will never forget.
I literally had to take my long sleeves of my work shirts, tie the sleeves together, and I tied myself into my rack.
He lost all sense of direction.
I mean, where the floor used to be, you were walking on the walls now. Whatever wasn't nailed down, welded down, tied down, or chained down, they got tossed around like you can't imagine.
The hours in the hull of the ship dragged on.
If I said we wasn't scared, I'd be lying. We were scared. We didn't think we was coming back either.
But the crew was determined to do what it could.
The engines were full blast, but by the waves, we couldn't go in a straight line. It was like this or like that. It took us 22 hours to get there.
There was a desperate search for any survivors.
When we got there in the morning, there was a Navy seaplane that dropped a marker in the water to where the last known whereabouts was where the ship went down.
But the grim reality of what happened quickly set in.
We found the wreckage of some lifeboats, so we kind of anticipated there was no survivors.
All 29 souls on the Edmund Fitzgerald were lost.
It'd have to be terrible. I mean, who could imagine? I wouldn't want to imagine.
Tony is humble about his mission that night, even though he could have lost his own life.
I overheard the captain say that my men will never know how close we were to not coming back.
Last year, for the first time, he met up with some of his Wood Rush crewmates in Duluth.
That was quite a reunion.
They are forever bonded by what happened 50 years ago.
That's a brotherhood.
Tony tells his story to keep the memory of the Edmund Fitzgerald alive, remember those who did not survive, and support those who were left to grieve.
The families, Matt. For quite some time, I've gotten familiar with the families from being up at the museum every year for a memorial service.
He remembers 10 years ago introducing himself to one of the victim's daughters.
My name's Tony, and I was on the Coast Guard cutter Wood Rush. And she just grabbed me, Matt. She started bawling, I started bawling, and we just became a family after that.
To this day, he wants the families to know he and his shipmates did all they could when they answered the call.
The Coast Guard manual says, you have to, you will go out, but you don't have to come back.
And Tony will be speaking at this year's memorial. He hopes to bring comfort to the families. That's always at the top of his mind. All these years later, no one knows the exact reason why the Edmund Fitzgerald sank, although some historians say the ship was pushed too hard leading up to that stormy night, and that some hatch covers were not properly secured, and the ship took on massive amounts of water.